I used to believe I had a great marriage. My wife, Stephanie, and I had been together for nearly a decade. We built a life that, from the outside, looked like the kind of thing people envied: comfortable home, shared vacations, inside jokes, and the kind of easy companionship that makes love feel like second nature. But if I'm being honest, I should have seen the cracks forming long before everything fell apart. Started small. Late nights at work that stretched a little too long. A sudden interest in fitness, though she never seemed to sweat much when she got home. The way her phone was always face down, always on silent. I told myself I was being paranoid. Work had been stressful for both of us, and people change. Maybe she just needed some space. Maybe I was overanalyzing things because I was exhausted, too. But then came the real red flags, the ones I couldn't explain away. One night, she came home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. When I casually mentioned it, she laughed it off, saying a coworker hugged her goodbye after a meeting. I wanted to believe her, but something felt off. Then, there was the way she'd answer calls in the bathroom. At first, I thought nothing of it, but it became a pattern. She'd get a text, glance at me, and say she needed a shower or forgot something upstairs. Every time, I'd hear the faint murmur of a conversation, muffled by running water or a closed door. And then, one night, she made a mistake. She was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone, and I walked up behind her to grab a glass of water. For a split second, I saw the name on her screen, Chris. Chris had been my best friend since college. He was like a brother to me, and Stephanie had never texted him before. Not like this. I didn't say anything. Not then. But I felt my stomach drop like I just missed a step on the stairs. That was the moment I knew. I just didn't have the proof yet. And I needed proof. Because if I was going to do this, if I was going to walk away from the woman I thought I'd spend my life with, I wanted to make sure I did it right. I wanted to make sure she never saw it coming. After seeing Chris's name on her phone, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. I tried to act normal, but the weight in my chest wouldn't go away. Every conversation with her felt rehearsed. Every touch from her felt hollow. I needed proof, but I didn't want to go full cliché and hire a private investigator. That felt too dramatic. Besides, if I was right, I wanted to be the one to catch them. I wanted to look them both in the eyes when it all came crashing down. So I started paying attention. Stephanie had a predictable routine: work, gym, occasional girls' night. But then, I noticed something. Her gym visits had become oddly inconsistent. Some nights, she'd go for over 2 hours. Other nights, she'd just stop by and come home looking exactly as she left. One Friday, I decided to test something. She told me she was heading to the gym after work. Instead of going home, I drove to the gym myself. I parked in the back lot and waited. She never showed up. I sat there for an hour, feeling like an idiot, questioning whether I was being paranoid. But then, just as I was about to leave, I saw Chris's car drive past. That was the confirmation I needed. But I still wasn't done. The next day, I told her I had a work event that would keep me out late. I even dressed the part, buttoned up a shirt, grabbed my laptop bag, and left like I was heading to some networking thing. Instead, I parked around the corner and waited. 30 minutes later, she left the house in a dress I hadn't seen in months. She got into her car and drove off. I followed her. She wasn't going to the gym. She wasn't meeting her friends. She drove straight to a small, dimly lit restaurant on the other side of town. And sitting there at a table near the window was Chris. They hugged when she walked in, sat close, laughed, and then, like it was nothing, she reached across the table and touched his hand the way she used to touch mine. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just some fling. This was something more. I could have walked in right then, could have caused a scene, flipped the table, made a mess of everything. But I didn't, because I had a better plan. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Watching them laugh, watching her touch him like I never existed. It should have made me explode. It should have made me storm inside and demand answers. But I didn't want answers. I already knew everything I needed to know. I wasn't about to give them the satisfaction of catching me off guard, of letting them turn this into some messy, emotional argument where they could twist the blame. No, if they wanted to play dirty, I'd play smarter. That night, I didn't go home right away. I needed time to think, to cool down. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I had a plan. The next morning, I acted like nothing had changed. Kissed her cheek before work. Sent a casual text during lunch. If she noticed anything different about me, she didn't show it. Maybe she was too comfortable, too deep in her lies to think I'd ever suspect. But while she was off pretending, I was preparing. First, I met with a lawyer. Told him everything. I wanted this divorce to be clean, airtight. No room for games or manipulation. Next, I started moving money. I wasn't stupid. I knew Stephanie would fight for whatever she could. So, I shifted assets, closed joint accounts, made sure my finances were protected before she even knew what was coming. Then, I did something I knew would cut deeper than any argument ever could. I drafted the divorce papers, and I wrote a letter. A simple one. A letter that told her I knew. A letter that told her she could have her new life with Chris because I was done. A letter that didn't ask why because I didn't care. But the best part? I knew exactly when and where to deliver it. I wasn't just going to hand her the papers like some business transaction. No, I was going to make sure she got them at the exact moment she least expected. Because if she wanted to humiliate me behind my back, I was going to return the favor. Tenfold. A week passed, and I let things play out as if nothing had changed. I smiled when she smiled. I nodded along to her stories. I even kissed her goodbye in the mornings like the devoted husband she thought I still was. But inside, I was counting down the days. Stephanie was predictable. She loved routine, and she especially loved her little self-care nights out. She never questioned when I had work plans, never thought twice about where I was, because she was too busy making her own excuses. That Friday, she told me she'd be out with friends again. Another girls' night. Another lie. I knew exactly where she was going. Chris had made reservations at a nice restaurant across town, the same place I'd caught them at before. It was a quiet spot, perfect for their little rendezvous. They probably thought they were being clever, picking somewhere just far enough away so no one would recognize them. I waited until she left, gave her a head start. Then I made my move. Before heading to the restaurant, I called ahead and spoke with the hostess. Told her I needed a favor, slipped in a little charm, and promised a generous tip if she helped me out. She agreed without hesitation. When I arrived, I stayed out of sight. I didn't need to confront them, I just needed to set the scene. I handed over the envelope. Inside were the divorce papers, a letter that laid everything bare, and a few printed photos, screenshots of texts I'd recovered, timestamps proving where she'd really been on those so-called gym nights. I kept it brief. No long-winded explanations. No begging for closure. Just the facts. And then, the best part, I told the hostess to deliver it right to their table, right in the middle of their meal. I didn't stay to watch. I didn't need to. I already knew exactly how it would go. First, confusion. She'd see the envelope with her name on it and probably assume it was some sweet little note from Chris. Then, realization. The first page, the divorce papers, would be impossible to miss. And finally, panic. Because I wasn't just breaking up with her. I was exposing her. I was taking away the control she thought she had over this situation. She wouldn't have time to hide the evidence, to spin the story before I had my say. She'd have to sit there, in the middle of a crowded restaurant, while everything unraveled. And Chris? He'd get a front row seat to the mess he helped create. I walked away knowing one thing for sure. The moment she saw that envelope hit the table, her night was over. I didn't need to be there to see it happen. I was already back home, sipping a drink in my living room, when my phone started vibrating non-stop. First, a flurry of texts from Stephanie. What the hell is this? Are you serious right now? We need to talk. Pick up the phone. Then a call. Another. And another. I let them ring out. I wasn't interested in hearing whatever excuses she was scrambling to come up with. She left a voicemail. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. I pressed play. Her voice was frantic, hushed like she didn't want people around her to hear. I don't know what you think you know, but this is insane. You can't just blindside me like this. We need to talk. You're being ridiculous. Ridiculous? I chuckled to myself. If I had any lingering doubts about whether I was making the right choice, that voicemail killed them on the spot. Not once did she apologize. Not once did she deny it either. No, she was only upset because I had taken control from her. Because I had ruined her night instead of the other way around. Her messages kept coming, cycling between anger and desperation. Let's be adults about this. You're overreacting. I didn't want you to find out this way. That last one made me pause. So what? She did want me to find out eventually, just on her terms? When she was ready to leave. When she had made sure Chris was locked in and her next move was secure. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a response. Instead, I powered off my phone and went to bed. Slept better than I had in months. The next day, she showed up at the house. Banged on the door like she had every right to demand a conversation. I let her knock for a while before finally answering. She looked different. Makeup smudged. Eyes red like she had been crying all night. But I wasn't about to let that sway me. Are you serious right now? She snapped the second I opened the door. I leaned against the frame. Completely. You ambushed me in the middle of dinner? She was practically shaking. With Chris. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, so you're admitting it now? Her mouth opened, but no words came out. That was the moment it hit her. There was no talking her way out of this. She tried anyway. It wasn't what you think. I was going to tell you. You haven't exactly been the best husband either. That last one almost made me laugh. Classic cheater logic. Shift the blame, turn it around, make me question myself. I didn't take the bait. Instead, I kept my voice calm, my expression unreadable. I don't care anymore, Stephanie. I gestured toward the driveway. Take whatever you need and go. She wasn't expecting that. I could see it in the way her face crumbled for a split second before she masked it with more anger. You can't just erase me like this. I shrugged. You already erased us. Her face twisted, caught somewhere between frustration and desperation. You're throwing away everything, she spat. I stepped back and started closing the door. No, you did. And then, before she could say another word, I shut it, locked it, and just like that, she was out of my life. She didn't leave quietly. For the next few days, Stephanie tried every trick in the book. Calls, voicemails, emails, even a handwritten letter left in the mailbox. Like suddenly she had rediscovered the art of romance. I ignored every single one. I wasn't about to let her weasel her way back in. Then she switched tactics. The messages turned bitter. You're being so immature about this. At least let's talk like adults. Fine. If this is how you want to handle it, I'll see you in court. Court? That made me laugh. She had nothing on me. She knew it too. The prenup we signed when we got married? Ironclad. The finances? I'd already taken care of that. She wasn't getting a cent more than what was legally required, and I had a damn good lawyer to make sure of it. The best part? Chris wasn't exactly stepping up to be her knight in shining armor. Word got around fast. Turns out Chris had a wife of his own. A wife who hadn't taken kindly to my little delivery at the restaurant. She had kicked him out the same night, slapped him with her own set of divorce papers, and from what I heard, she wasn't going to be nearly as fair as I had been. So, Stephanie? She wasn't just dealing with losing me. She was dealing with losing everything. I heard from a mutual friend that she tried moving in with Chris after the dust settled. That lasted about a week before he realized what a mistake he had made and cut her off, too. I should have felt bad. I didn't. Instead, I focused on moving forward. The first few weeks after the divorce were strange. It's not like I missed her. I missed the idea of what I thought we had. The illusion. But with every day that passed, I realized how much better life felt without the weight of her betrayal hanging over me. No more late-night paranoia. No more wondering if I was imagining things. No more twisting myself into knots trying to make sense of lies. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. And just when I thought I was done hearing about her, I got one last message. An email. Short. Almost pathetic. I made a mistake. Can we talk? I didn't even respond. I just smiled, clicked delete, and got on with my day. Because the truth was, she wasn't my problem anymore. She had made her choice, and I had finally made mine.